Welcome back to What Fizz. Today, we're diving into a case that's, fascinating and frustrating in equal measure. It's the tale of the missing crypto queen, Ruja Ignatova.
A story that really highlights the dark side of the cryptocurrency boom, I think. It's a reminder that even in the digital age, those age-old scams can still thrive.
Yeah, and just when we thought we'd heard it all, new leads have surfaced. They suggest that Ignatova might be alive and hiding out, potentially in South Africa.
It's a twist that has everyone talking, so... For those who might not be familiar with the case, let's rewind a bit. Ruja Ignatova, she kind of burst onto the scene in 2014 with Onecoin. This cryptocurrency she marketed as the next Bitcoin, promising huge returns and financial freedom.
She was charismatic, hosted these extravagant events, and she managed to convince millions worldwide to invest in Onecoin. But there was a problem.
A big one. Onecoin. It wasn't a real cryptocurrency at all. It had no blockchain, which is, that underlying technology gives cryptocurrencies their value and security. It was essentially a sophisticated Ponzi scheme, where early investors were paid with money from new recruits.
Okay, hold on. Let's unpack that for a second. Can you quickly explain what a Ponzi scheme is for those who might not know?
Absolutely. A Ponzi scheme. It relies on constantly bringing in new investors to pay off existing ones. There's no actual product or service generating profit. It's a house of cards. And eventually, it collapses when the flow of new investors dries up.
And that's exactly what happened with Onecoin.
Exactly. As authorities began to investigate and warnings surfaced, the whole thing started to unravel. And just as the walls were closing in, Ruja Ignatova disappeared.
Poof. Vanished without a trace. This was October 2017. She boarded a flight from Bulgaria to Greece, and that was the last confirmed sighting.
Her brother, Konstantin Ignatov, he tried to keep the scheme going for a while, but he was arrested in 2019 and later pleaded guilty to fraud and money laundering.
Another co-founder, Sebastian Greenwood, he was also arrested and is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence. But Ruja, the alleged mastermind, remained a ghost until now. But before we get to the juicy details, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button and give us a like if you're enjoying the deep dive. That really helps us out.
And don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future episodes.
Now back to the mystery. So the big question is, where is Ruja Ignatova? For years, there have been all these conflicting theories. And some believe that she was murdered on a yacht in Greece back in 2018, her body disposed of at sea.
This theory stemmed from information reportedly found in the home of a Bulgarian police officer, Lubomir Ivanov, who was himself shot and killed in 2022.
It's a case with more twists and turns than a Hollywood thriller. And to make things even more complicated, Krasimir Kamenov, a Bulgarian crime boss, alleged to have ties to Ignatova, was murdered in Cape Town, South Africa in 2023.
What's interesting is that Kamenov, he was supposedly a source for the Bulgarian police about Ignatova's whereabouts. And there are reports that he was about to give U.S. investigators even more information before his death.
Wow. Talk about a tangled web. But then we get this new development of potential bombshell. German police are investigating leads. They suggest that Ignatova might be alive and well, hiding out in, you guessed it, South Africa.
And they believe she could be under the protection of organized crime networks there, potentially living a life of luxury, far from the reach of the law.
So is the crypto queen, sipping cocktails on a beach somewhere, while millions of her victims are left to pick up the pieces. It's almost too audacious to believe.
Well, it's important to remember that these are still just theories. However, there are some intriguing details that lend credence to the South Africa connection. For instance, Ruja's brother, Konstantin, he visited Cape Town in 2018, and some believe she may have been in contact with his sister after her supposed murder.
So are we thinking she faked her own death and slipped away with billions? Sounds like something straight out of a spy novel.
The idea is certainly captivating. The FBI still considers Ignatova to be alive and a fugitive, as there is no documented evidence of her death.
That's a lot to take in. We've got a potential murder, a powerful crime boss, a missing fugitive, and billions of dollars unaccounted for. Where do we even begin to untangle this mess?
Well, I think it's important to start with the victims. While the focus is often on Ruja Ignatova's whereabouts and the missing money, we can't forget the devastating impact this scam had on countless lives.
That's a great point. It's easy to get caught up in the intrigue of the case. But we need to remember that real people lost their savings, their homes, their livelihoods because of Onecoin. It's a reminder that financial scams, even in the digital age, they can have devastating consequences.
Absolutely, and often. These scams prey on the most vulnerable, those who are less financially savvy or desperate for a better life. Ruja Ignatova. She was incredibly skilled at exploiting people's hopes and dreams, using charisma and sophisticated marketing to create an illusion of success.
So how did she manage to pull this off for so long? What were the key elements that allowed her to build this empire of deception?
One factor was the lack of regulation in the cryptocurrency market at the time. It was the Wild West, and many people didn't fully understand the risks involved.
Right. And she leveraged that lack of understanding to her advantage. She presented Onecoin as this simple, accessible way to get rich quick, targeting those who might not have been as familiar with the complexities of blockchain technology.
Exactly. And she used classic Ponzi scheme tactics, offering high returns with minimal risk, which, as we know, is a major red flag. She also used multi-level marketing, which encouraged investors to recruit new members and earn commissions, creating a pyramid-like structure that fueled the scam's growth.
This MLM structure was key, wasn't it? It created a sense of community and incentivized people to spread the word about Onecoin, even if they had doubts about its legitimacy.
Absolutely. They were making money, so they were motivated to believe in the system, even as evidence to the contrary began to mount. It's fascinating, but also incredibly sad to see how easily people can be drawn into these elaborate schemes.
It speaks to the power of persuasion, the allure of easy money, and the human tendency to trust those who appear confident and successful.
And it's a reminder that we all need to be more vigilant, to do our research, and to be skeptical of promises that sound too good to be true, especially when it comes to investments.
That's right. We need to approach these opportunities with a critical eye, to ask questions, and to be wary of high-pressure sales tactics.
Okay, so we've talked about the scam itself, the victims, and the mystery surrounding Ruja Ignatova's disappearance. But there's another crucial piece to this puzzle. What happened to the billions of dollars she allegedly stole?
That's the million-dollar question, literally. And it's a question that has investigators working around the clock to find answers.
So where do we go from here? Let's dive into the efforts to recover those funds, the challenges investigators are facing, and the potential implications for the future of cryptocurrency regulation. Let's do it, because this case is far from over, and the fight for justice is just beginning.
All right, so we're talking billions of dollars, potentially scattered across the globe. Where do investigators even begin to track down this missing money?
It's a monumental task, like trying to find needles in a digital haystack. We're talking about a sophisticated criminal operation that likely used every trick in the book to hide the funds.
Right. From shell companies to offshore accounts, probably even investments in assets like real estate or luxury goods. It's overwhelming to think about.
Absolutely. And it's made even more complex by the international nature of the scam. Money could be stashed in jurisdictions with lax financial regulations, or hidden behind layers of legal entities designed to obscure ownership.
So it's not as simple as just tracing bank transfers or following a paper trail.
Not at all. Imagine trying to follow a money trail that zigzags across continents, jumping between shell companies and anonymous accounts, often using cryptocurrencies to further blur the lines.
Okay, so walk me through this. What are some of the specific challenges investigators face when trying to unravel this kind of financial web?
One major hurdle is simply identifying the assets. They have to pierce the veil of these shell companies, which are basically empty businesses used to hide money and make it hard to track.
Right, so it's like trying to figure out who's pulling the strings behind a curtain.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of jurisdiction. If assets are held in a country that doesn't cooperate with international investigations, it can be incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to seize them.
So even if you know where the money is, getting your hands on it is a whole other battle.
Precisely. And it often involves lengthy legal processes, international treaties, and a lot of red tape. It's a slow and frustrating process, especially for the victims who are waiting for justice.
And speaking of the victims, let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the human cost of this scam. We've mentioned that millions lost their savings, but what are some of the personal stories that really illustrate the impact of Onecoin?
There are countless heartbreaking stories we've heard from people who invested their life savings, retirement funds, even money borrowed from family and friends, all based on the promise of a better future.
It's devastating to think about, and not just the financial losses, but the emotional toll as well, the betrayal, the shame, the sense of helplessness.
Absolutely. Many victims were drawn in by the community aspect of Onecoin, encouraged by friends and family members who were also involved. So the betrayal is often multi-layered.
It's like a ripple effect, destroying trust and relationships. along with financial security.
Right. And it's important to remember that many victims, they weren't naive or greedy. They were simply looking for a way to improve their lives, and they were targeted by a sophisticated operation that knew how to exploit their hopes and dreams.
It's a reminder that anyone can fall victim to a scam, regardless of their background or education level. These criminals, they're masters of manipulation, and they're constantly evolving their tactics to stay one step ahead.
Exactly. And that's why education and awareness are so crucial. We need to empower people to recognize the red flags, to ask questions, and to do their research before investing in anything, especially in the volatile world of cryptocurrency.
So what steps can be taken to prevent these kinds of scams from happening in the future? I mean, is it simply a matter of better education, or do we need more robust regulation in the cryptocurrency space?
It's a combination of both. Education is critical, but we also need stronger regulations. To create a safer and more transparent market, we need clear guidelines for cryptocurrency exchanges, stricter requirements for verifying investors, and better mechanisms for tracking and tracing transactions.
It seems like the regulatory landscape is constantly evolving, but is it keeping pace with the rapid advancements in cryptocurrency technology?
That's the challenge. It's like a game of cat and mouse. As regulators try to close loopholes, scammers find new ways to exploit the system.
So is it even possible to fully regulate a decentralized and orderly legal system?
It's certainly a complex issue, but I think the key is international cooperation. No single country can effectively regulate a global market like cryptocurrency. We need a coordinated effort to share information, develop common standards, and hold criminals accountable no matter where they operate.
Right, because if one country cracks down, these operations can easily relocate to a more permissive jurisdiction.
Exactly. That's why we need a global approach, one that recognizes the transnational nature of cybercrime and empowers law enforcement agencies to work together effectively.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges of recovering stolen funds and the need for better regulation. But what about the search for Ruja Ignatova herself? What are the latest developments in the hunt for the missing crypto queen?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, the focus has shifted to South Africa, based on leads suggesting she might be hiding out there. But it's important to remember that this is still just a theory, albeit a compelling one.
Right. And the recent murder of the Bulgarian crime boss in Cape Town, Krasimir Kamenov, adds another layer of complexity. What do we know about his alleged ties to Ignatova and the potential information he was about to provide to U.S. investigators?
Well, the details surrounding the relationship are still murky, but it's clear they moved in similar circles. And Kamenov was said to have information about Ignatova's whereabouts. Whether that information died with him or is still accessible is a crucial question for investigators.
It sounds like a scene from a spy movie with secret meetings,
Yeah.
shadowy figures, and information being traded in the underworld.
It definitely has all the elements of a thrilling crime drama, and the stakes are incredibly high with billions of dollars and the potential for justice hanging in the balance.
So what are the next steps for investigators? Are they closing in on Ignatova, or is she still one step ahead?
It's hard to say for sure, but the increased reward offered by the FBI, now up to $5 million, suggests they believe she's still alive and that someone out there has the information they need.
$5 million is a powerful incentive. Do you think it's enough to entice someone to betray Ignatova and lead authorities there?
It's certainly possible. Loyalties can shift, especially when such a large sum of money is involved. And remember, Ignatova has made a lot of enemies over the years. People who felt betrayed, people who lost money, people who were used and discarded.
So there's a chance that someone rat her out, motivated by revenge, greed, or a desire to clear their own conscience, might come forward.
Absolutely. And that's what investigators are hoping for. Because right now, Ruja Ignatova is a ghost, a symbol of impunity and the audacity of financial crime. Catching her would send a powerful message that justice can prevail, even in the digital age.
It would be a huge victory for the victims, not just in terms of potential financial recovery, but also in terms of closure and accountability.
Exactly. And it would serve as a warning to other would-be scammers that they can't hide forever.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the challenges of recovering the missing billions, the devastating impact on victims, and the ongoing search for Ruja Ignatova. As we wrap up this deep dive, what are some of the key takeaways you want listeners to walk away with?
Well, I think the first takeaway is that while the world of cryptocurrency offers exciting opportunities, it also comes with significant risks. We need to be informed, vigilant, and skeptical of promises that sound too good to be true.
We've talked about the missing billions, the victims, and the ongoing search for Ruja Ignatova, but let's shift gears a little and consider the broader implications of this Onecoin scandal. What does this case tell us about, I don't know, the allure and the dangers of the cryptocurrency world?
Well, this case is a stark reminder that the cryptocurrency market, it's still relatively young, and in many ways, it's the Wild West. It offers these exciting possibilities for innovation and financial inclusion, but it's also fertile ground for scams and manipulation.
Right, and the lack of robust regulation in many jurisdictions, it creates these opportunities for criminals to exploit the system, like we saw with Onecoin.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the absence of regulations, but also the complexity of the technology itself. Many people are drawn to cryptocurrency because of the promise of quick riches, but they don't fully understand the underlying technology or the risks involved.
Right, like investing in something you don't truly comprehend, hoping for the best, but not really knowing how it all works.
Exactly. And that lack of understanding makes people more vulnerable to scams, especially when they're presented with a charismatic leader and a compelling narrative, as was the case with Ruja Ignatova.
So what can be done to protect investors and ensure the integrity of the cryptocurrency market as it continues to evolve?
I think education is paramount. We need to empower people with the knowledge and tools to make informed decisions about cryptocurrency investments. That means understanding the technology, recognizing the red flags of scams, and doing thorough research before putting their money at risk.
Right, it's about fostering a healthy level of skepticism, not blindly following hype or promises of overnight riches.
Absolutely. And beyond education, we also need stronger regulations, both domestically and internationally. We need clear guidelines for cryptocurrency exchanges, robust mechanisms for tracking transactions and preventing money laundering, and better protections for investors.
It's about creating a level playing field, ensuring transparency, and holding bad actors accountable.
And it's a challenge because the cryptocurrency world is global and decentralized, but that's precisely why international cooperation is essential. No single country can effectively police this space. We need a coordinated effort to develop common standards and share information to combat fraud and manipulation.
It's a complex issue, but one that's critical to address as cryptocurrency becomes increasingly integrated into the global financial system.
Absolutely. And the Onecoin scandal serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the potential consequences when innovation outpaces regulation and when criminals exploit vulnerabilities in the system.
So as we conclude this deep dive, what's the most important message you want listeners to take away from the story of the missing crypto queen?
I think the key takeaway is that while cryptocurrency offers these exciting possibilities, it's essential to approach this space with a critical and informed mindset. Do your research, understand the risks, and be wary of anything that promises easy money. Remember, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Well said. And remember, the search for Ruja Ignatova continues. If you have any information about her whereabouts, please contact the authorities. Even the smallest detail could help bring her to justice and provide some closure for the countless victims of the Onecoin scam.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of the crypto queen. It's a story that highlights the complexities and challenges of the digital age. A reminder that even in the virtual realm, human greed, deception, and the pursuit of justice are very real.
We'll continue to follow this captivating saga and keep you updated on any new developments. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe out there in the Wild West of the digital world.